This job isn't just a warm, fuzzy social work position.
It's not what you expect, and it's the hardest job you'll ever do.
Simultaneously, the worst job you've ever had and the best job you've ever had.
It's a challenge. It can be frightening.
It can be complicated. It can be chaotic.
Overwhelming.
This is a tough job. It requires a lot of thick skin.
You see horrible things.
It's hard.
No day is ever the same.
A lot of days feel like your head is spinning.
You are going to have challenging days where you're going to want to walk out the door.
But at the end of the day,
You will make a difference.
you make a difference.
A difference in families' lives.
Typically, it would start with a phone call.
Department of Children and Families.
The front end, it's all about safety.
You have one chance on the phone. You may not get another chance. We're the gatekeeper for the community with child welfare.
They're taking calls every day. They're writing the reports.
Pouring into their ears from a place where they can't see the person as a story that's happening to a child right now. And they need to make a decision about it right now.
It's daily. It's sexual assaults of children daily. It's neglect daily. It's abuse.
Sometimes your decisions are life or death.
Access workers take the calls. We screen it in or we screen it out. If we screen it in,
There's something in that report that's concerning and meets the state statutes.
it could be an emergency same day, meaning you have to get out there today. Could be 24 to 48, meaning you have 2 days or within 5. So it varies based on the severity of the referral.
It could be just about anything. It could be the ER is calling because a child's there with a serious injury.
If there is a known medical concern, medical neglect, unexplained injury, we will designate that case as a health alert.
It could be law enforcement calling.
This is what we got going on. Can you meet us?
We get out on things right away. You're constantly moving.
You're constantly getting new cases. You're constantly meeting new people. You're constantly having to think on your feet.
It's for people that have courage because you go into homes unknown, but unlike a policeman, you don't go with a billy club, you don't go with mace, you don't go with a gun. You go with a pen, a pencil, a telephone, a sheet of paper, and what you can pull out of your mind.
You go out in the community and you go into people's homes.
When we enter a family, it's crisis mode for them.
Every case you have to approach differently.
Sometimes it's scary, sometimes it's exciting.
Something really bad is typically going on.
I really don't think about what's going to be beforehand because it could turn out to be anything.
Butterflies, you don't know what's going to be behind the door.
You're dealing with human behavior.
Emotions are really high.
Our department received a report about your family.
You have to be rather tough-skinned.
I mean, you have cases where you're going to get yelled at, you're going to be sworn at.
Slam doors in your face, angry people.
Screamed at on a relatively consistent basis.
Sometimes when we knock on their door, they're expecting us. In the back of their mind, they're expecting us. I think one thing that was hard for me is that you have to realize that everybody is not living like you live.
You have to remove yourself from the way you were raised.
People live in different situations and you have to respect that.
This job pulls a lot. It tugs on your emotions. It tugs on your sense of ethics, your sense of what is right and wrong.
If you have a parent who is physically abusing their child, that hurts you. However, you cannot go into that home being judgmental, being critical.
There's lots of cases where you see some great people overcome challenges, and you see some cases that you deal with people who have done terrible things.
These people that we're working with are human beings.
And this has been their way of life, and that's what they are used to.
They have a history, they have a past, they have a story.
You want to go in and say, tell me about the dynamics in your home. What brought this family to this point?
I want to hear what they have to say. I want to hear their stories, how they got here.
Being assertive but not aggressive. Having confidence but not being arrogant.
You can't be judgmental of how they're living, but you're there to help them.
Those relationships are so important to outcomes and successful outcomes and making a difference, to be able to work with them and to tell them what you want them to do.
To work this job, you really need to have some self-assurance.
You need fire, you You need ambition,
Perseverance, creativity.
have a thick skin, an open mind.
You need empathy.
Empathy.
You need to be empathetic.
To be open-minded.
Compassionate and intelligent.
You need a lot of patience.
Patience.
Flexibility.
Confidence, dedication.
Common sense.
You need excellent writing skills.
To work this job, you need passion,
Passion.
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 and you need grit.
How are you? Good. We're gonna go right in this room over here. See straight back there? All right. And then you can have a seat right over there.
One of my most memorable would have been a 5-year-old girl that was assaulted by her father. Notified CPS, then I asked them to conduct a forensic interview.
We do those usually when it's sexual abuse or severe physical abuse.
Can you tell me about your family? Who do you live with?
A trained interviewer interviews the child. We draw a big face drawing with them, see if they can make that representational shift.
Is he nice, mean, or something else?
It's really to help the child.
Our goal here is to minimize trauma while maximizing the amount of information that we can gather for the investigation.
We have a team of people that we work with that watch from a room upstairs. It's recorded and it can be used as evidence.
The little girl disclosed improper touching, but she also disclosed that the dad touched her underwear. I was able to take those to the crime lab and I was able to get the dad's DNA from inside the underwear. I would have never had that physical evidence if it wasn't for that forensic interview disclosing that.
We do a lot of work with sex trafficking youth, do a lot of work with the feds for our kids that are being trafficked.
It's been something that's been a really big issue. It takes a certain person and a certain set of skills to work with this type of youth and the challenges that it all faces. It happens very frequently. It's an underground operation just like drug trafficking. Easy way to get money for these pimps and for these people that are controlling these women and men. They take vulnerable youth, taking them into these areas where people are wanting to pay for sex, and yeah, it's very prevalent. Being able to help families understand what's going on and relaying that information to law enforcement. Hopefully someday this can be stopped and we can save lives this way.
It's not just the child that you're working with.
We have to reach out to what's called collateral sources in every investigation.
You're working with the family, the community,
Different organizations at a micro and macro level.
Doctors, lawyers,
Law enforcement,
Hospitals, schools,
teachers,
mental health
advocates,
Department of Corrections,
victim witness,
therapists,
court system.
district attorney's
And you
office.
get to meet just wonderful people.
Understand the whole child and not just the allegation that brought them in. How to promote a child's healthy development over time as the case progresses, as the child progresses through our system.
The 20-year-old brother gave a pretty accurate depiction of the event.
It's a monthly review, so we pick 1 or 2 cases, sometimes 3 a month, and discuss what went on.
And he said, yeah, I heard my mom screaming. I went in there and beat the holy hell out of my stepdad.
What we did well and what we could have done better.
I would recommend that a medical provider document the injuries in a medical record and law enforcement take pictures.
With a multidisciplinary team, each person has their own goal that they have to accomplish.
These are words that came right out of our protocol for physical abuse.
And we all have to respect everyone's goal because each person is trying to go in a different direction, but as a team, we all have to work together.
It's a collaborative community.
We're all trying to attain the same thing, which is ultimately the safety of these children.
You're putting in 2 hats. You're the social worker, which is traditionally a helping field, but the reality is you're also pseudo law enforcement as you're investigating at the same time.
All those safety concerns with children, we do not have the authority to remove them from the house. We have to contact CPS, have a CPS worker come out, and they have the authority to remove the child.
Legally, we do have the right to take away somebody's child.
When there is a threat to their safety.
We can go to schools and take a child out of the school, to a nursery and take a newborn.
All about the safety and the welfare of those kids.
If the kid is any way in harm's way, we remove.
I am one of the workers that would remove the child.
It is a lot of power. I mean, and it's scary for people, for families, you know, I mean, that's the immediate thought. Social workers here, they're going to take my kids. I can't tell you how many times families have said to me, please don't take my kids. Even if that's not even on my radar, please don't take my kids.
The last thing that we want to do is take a child into custody and take them out of their home.
We try to avoid that at all costs.
No matter what the circumstances, our number one goal is to get those kids back in the home.
I work with parents.
Keeping families intact and making families work better together.
And there's research studies that show that children shouldn't be removed from their homes. Do the absolute most you can to keep them in their most natural environment.
Children get traumatized when they're placed with complete strangers, and that's what foster care is. It's stranger care. It is placing kids with people they don't even know.
We put safety plans into place that provide for somebody to be supervised in their home with their kids 24 hours a day so that we don't have to remove them.
Coming out of college as a social worker, you do have this idea that you are going to change every single person that you ever meet.
I thought I would come in, swoop in, and go and rescue all these children. I'm not as big of a hero as I thought I would be.
I don't think people understand how based in law social work is.
It's the courthouse.
You have to be comfortable in courts.
Basic legal statutes and codes dictate what we do.
Every time you take a child into custody, you have to have a hearing.
A big part of this job is going into the courtroom and presenting to the judge or the commissioner what's going on.
Ongoing case managers are in our courtrooms daily.
The social workers really are the individuals that make the system work.
They are the ones that work day in and day out with these families. They are the ones that have all the information.
We work with our corporation counsel, our attorney. We operate under very quick circumstances in a very short time period. If a child is taken into custody, we're in court within 48 hours. We're filing court documents within 72. I don't have time to do an investigation on my own. I rely on what the worker can gather in a very short period of time.
What do you think we should do here?
Do you feel this child is going to be safe, or are you concerned for the child's safety?
What's been happening with this family, what's been happening with the kids, whether there's been progress, what needs to be done, what needs to be improved.
And everyone's looking to you as the expert on the case.
They also have to be able to communicate that from the witness stand.
I have to testify.
It's a regular part of the job.
Essentially explaining why we need to be involved with this family formally.
You got to be an individual who can go toe-to-toe with an attorney, a defense attorney, argue and support a police officer, discuss a case with a prosecutor, and then turn around and get down on your knees and talk to a child at their level.
What I wasn't prepared for was case noting every single thing I did.
You write a lot of papers.
Sometimes I have an entire day devoted just to sitting in front of my computer.
My reports are typically anywhere from 10 to 20 pages long, and I write several of those a month.
Documentation is huge.
You're continually documenting.
If you don't document it, it didn't happen.
You have to write a lot. You have to write well.
So that everyone else knows what you know about the children being safe in the home.
That can then be shared with courts, with our partners. That's what paints the picture of how these kids and these families are doing.
And all of that information comes into play, into the court process.
That information needs to be imparted to the judiciary so that we can make really good decisions with the right amount of information in front of us.
Sometimes attorneys appointed to the families that we work with, guardian ad litem are appointed.
It really goes a long way in determining what final decision the judge makes in each case.
This is a life that you can steer in a direction and make it positive, or steer it in a direction and have a disaster.
On my worst days,
I wonder if I can continue on.
I feel like I didn't make a difference at all.
Need to ask for help. On my worst days, I cry.
I cry and I worry for the children.
I cry and want to quit.
On my worst days, I think I'm done. I'm not coming back in because it is so frustrating that we aren't able to always do as much as we want.
I think the hardest part is wondering if you're doing the right thing.
Some cases you leave and you feel like, I didn't do enough.
Did I make the right decision leaving that child in that environment?
You want to make sure that the child is safe where you left them.
Did I build mom up enough? Did I give her enough support? Did I give her enough empathy? Did I give her what she needs to do it better this time?
We know something's going on with this family, with this child's being harmed, we can't prove it.
You will leave a house as a CPS worker not feeling great about the situation and knowing you can't do anything about it at that point in time. You really have to put aside what you think is best and look at what the law says.
The people have a fundamental right to live their life and raise their families as they see fit, even if not everybody likes it.
We have to go based upon policies and state statutes. So there are lots of things where they're poor parenting choices that we can't do anything about. We can only do something about safety, and the general public doesn't seem to be aware of the difference between poor parenting and safety.
Poverty is not a child welfare issue. If they're doing the best they can with what they have, they're doing the best they can to care for their children. It may not be exactly maybe what you and I might hope for the family, but they're doing the best they can.
There's a lot of times where you feel like parents aren't meeting children's emotional needs. They're just screaming at them all the time, they're swearing at them, just not treating them what I would feel is appropriate. But at the end of the day, the parents are meeting their basic needs.
And you need to walk away.
There's cases that can really cause an emotional exhaustion that take a lot out of you. And when those cases come up, you have to take some time to yourself to kind of overcome just your own feelings.
Coming here, I thought, well, I'm ready for, I work under all kind of stressful situations, but just emotional attachment to some of the kids and seeing things go on, I did not expect that.
I think people have a huge naivety of what we as human beings are capable of doing to other human beings, whether it's intentional or unintentional.
It's not a matter of if you see something horrible, it's when.
There's cases that still stick with me that never will leave me.
The amount of physical abuse or emotional abuse that parents can bestow on their children and really have no idea themselves the damage they have done.
You're going to see some really nasty stuff, and it will make you want to quit, and you will lose sleep.
Extreme sexual abuse, extreme physical abuse.
Child deaths, significant injuries.
Kids physically harmed by their parents, siblings.
Young children suffering a traumatic experience.
It's horrible. It's horrible that parents can do these kinds of things to their children.
But it continues to appall me to think they don't understand.
Most of us are conditioned not to want to see children hurt, not to want to see children die, not to want to see children in pain. And this work deals with all of that.
And that's something you have to learn how to internalize and not let it affect who you are.
I mean, you carry that with you, and you have to learn how to be able to take care of yourself.
Being able to flip a switch at the end of the day and leave work at work.
Sometimes you take it home no matter what. That's something that people need to understand, is sometimes you will have those cases that you think about at home.
When I first started, going home crying, dreaming about my cases, dreaming about these kids with injuries, and I felt like I was being a terrible mom, I felt like I was being a terrible wife.
You need to have a sense of who you are when you come into the work and be ready to put all of that on the line, and yet at the end of the day go back and be you.
Do you feel like you're making a difference?
At times, not always.
Most of the time.
Every day.
You're not always going to make a difference right away.
I've been doing this long enough to know that even though change doesn't happen overnight, it is making a difference.
Yeah, I do. Not every day, but overall, I feel like I'm making a difference.
Maybe a different difference than I thought I was going to be making.
Anytime we touch a family's life, they're better off than when we came in.
What we do is important.
It's for people that have a sense of crusade.
Knowing that you're serving a greater purpose.
Every child needs someone to advocate for them. And if you're that person advocating for that child, you may truly be the only one that's doing so.
On my best days?
On my best days,
I sing.
I really feel like I've been able to advocate.
I've made some sort of a change.
I feel good about the work that I've done.
I've made a difference. I've always subscribed to the theory that people, when they know better, they do better. That's been reinforced doing this work.
On my best days, I'm able to joke with my clients.
I feel successful, maybe laugh with some families.
I feel challenged.
Excited to come to work.
It's just what I was meant to do.
I feel like I'm doing an intended work, and it's an absolute necessary thing.
When you talk to them, you're the parent that maybe they didn't have, or you're the voice that they didn't hear. And this is the beginning to changing the way that they have been doing things.
On my best days, I have amazing ideas.
I felt I made an impact on a family.
On my best days, I feel awesome and feel like I'm really truly making a difference.